Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, connoisseurs. It's Rod with Pow Group, your home for MJ Stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Today is Saturday, August 16th. Hope you're well. And in this video, we're going to be discussing a very controversial topic, but also I'll give my thoughts and opinions. As always, it's just that, my own thoughts and opinions. I'll get real with everybody. You come here for my honest opinion, and I don't fluff. I don't tell you what you want to hear. I tell you what you need to hear, and I'm very just truthful with how I approach things. And this is one of those things where you're going to ruffle some feathers either way. Why is U.S. legalization, though, and Canadian excise tax reform taking so long? We're going to go through that, and I'm curious to hear what your thoughts and opinions are in the comment section below. You can let me know. I'll go through all of my thoughts on this topic, both of these topics. Before we do, make sure to smash the like. If you're new, you can subscribe, click the bell, you'll be notified on any future videos. And you can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter. Handle for that is @GroupPow. So we actually had a video here. This was on the Joe Rogan Experience. He was talking about rescheduling and an update on that. And just, I don't think anybody has to be told that this is absolutely insane, that it's taking this long. But let's just hear it from Joe Rogan here. I'll play this real quick.
Yeah, there's some talk about Trump legalizing marijuana now.
That would be amazing.
It kind of feels like it is legal right now.
Well, it should be. It's so stupid. It's so. I can't believe we're still dealing with this. I mean, I would have thought by the time I just turned 58, I would have thought by the time I'm 58, we would have figured this out. Right?
Can I tell you, when my we always start with my aunt.
All right, so you can watch the whole clip. It's 5 minutes, 19 seconds. I shared it on my X, so you can just scroll down. It's right there. But, the only reason why it makes any sense at all is that it's being done this way on purpose. People are not dumb. The U.S. is the biggest economy in the world, the biggest capital markets in the world. They're not dumb. They're doing this for a reason, and I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions on that. But before I do, like 90% of Americans, a new research poll has shown that 90% of Americans back MJ legalization. So it can't be because of the people. It can't be because it's not a popular issue or they don't have the favor, the citizens' approval. 90% of Americans want it legalized. So if that's the case, and they work for the American people, do the U.S. politicians, like I don't care, left side, right side, blue, red, green, whatever, I don't care. I hate all politics. But in my opinion, every politician in the U.S. should be fired with prejudice. They should never be able to allow, they should never be allowed back ever again. It's just so corrupt, and I have to be careful what I say because I don't want to get my channel banned or anything like that. But do they hate the American people? Because 90% of your citizens want it legalized. And then Canada also came out and said, there was an article here, the MJ Council of Canada welcomes the findings of Deloitte's report and calls for change to excise tax to strengthen Canada's legal MJ industry. So why is it that we have 7 years at the federal level, we're legal here in Canada? Why is it taking so long for excise tax reform to happen? There's companies dropping like flies, producers, retailers everywhere that are struggling to be profitable because of this high excise tax. Producers are paying about 1/3 of their top line revenue is going towards excise tax. It's absolutely insane. So why is it that the U.S. hasn't legalized in 7 years? We've been legal here in Canada at the federal level. Why hasn't the U.S. legalized? Why haven't they rescheduled? Why hasn't Canada lowered the excise tax? I think there's one overarching main reason, and that's to destroy all of the small players. And if you look here, MJ legality by state, this was updated August 11th, 2025. How can you say it's a Schedule 1 when it has no medical value, when almost 40 states have legalized it in some form of another medical. There's 25 states that have recreational. And just look at this, medicinal. Yes, 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 yes. So almost all of the US has it legalized for medical at the state level. And you're telling me that it has no medical value and it's on Schedule 1. That's just so bass-ackwards that it doesn't even make any sense. So is it that they're really that dumb and they just don't have a clue what they're doing? Or are they really smart and they know exactly what they're doing? And I think the same thing's happening in Canada. What's the biggest issue right now in Canada? Excise tax for these producers. A lot of producers are going overseas into the European markets, etc., because they don't have to pay that high excise tax. And then what's the biggest issue in the US? It's 280E, right? The same kind of thing. They're not able to deduct regular expenses like any other business. So those are the two major things. And I've said for a while now that excise tax reform in Canada and 280E reform and removal in the US will likely go away around the same time because they're going to create a level playing field. And you have to remember that the big alcohol, the big pharmas, the big tobaccos of the world, they're investing a lot into these Canadian companies. So if we see 280E removal in the US, I bet you they're going to lobby the Canadian government like crazy, if not already done, or we see reform there to excise tax and improvements. But there was also an article here, and this was shared in the Powder private community, Trump's MJ charade and why Schedule 3 is a Trojan horse for Big Pharma. And I would tend to agree with this, right? Schedule 3 scam, Big Pharma's MJ bailout. We scroll down, Trump's corporate MJ donors speak volumes. The real American solution, complete descheduling. So, I would agree. Like, why isn't Congress doing their jobs? They're put there to legislate, to create laws, and 90% of your citizens want it legalized, and they're not doing a damn thing. It's just been false promises for forever. And, I share the same frustration that we have here on the Joe Rogan podcast. Like, it does feel like it's legal. Like, what's going on? So the reason why that this is the way that it is, in my opinion, and the reason why they're doing this in Canada as well, is to weed out, no pun intended, all of the small operators, right? What they want you to believe is that, the reason why we haven't seen any reform in the U.S. is because of, bureaucratic, we didn't have the bipartisan support, and there's other priorities, and the illicit market, the pesticides and all the psychosis and everything like that, that's coming from the illicit market because it's not regulated, and just the concerns about driving under the influence and turning kids into zombies, blah blah blah. But in my opinion, the real reason they're stalling is to destroy all of the small players. And they want to sound like it's social justice. Every mom and pop can come in and get a license, and it's a charade. It's all a facade. It's all smoke and mirrors. And they're even doing it in Canada. It's been legal for 7 years, but there's companies dropping like flies. I know people that friends and family and acquaintances that started MJ shops, like retail shops, and they just completely get destroyed because of so much competition and just the illicit market continuing to gain market share because people are, they're not going to go and pay 3 or 4 times the amount that they could get through the illicit market. So in my opinion, it's also so that these big corporations and big pharma, tobacco, alcohol can come in, get their filthy paws all over it. And what better way to control the industry than to make it difficult for mom and pop shops. And not only that, these early entrepreneurs and innovators, they come in with all these amazing ideas and patents and IP, and then they drop like flies. They can't keep up with the high taxation. People are leaving, going to the illicit market because of lack of regulation at the federal level or a lack of excise tax reform. It's just all a facade, in my opinion, so that the companies with big, deep pockets, right? The big alcohols, the big pharmas, tobaccos of the world, they're going to swoop in, they're going to buy it for pennies on the dollar. They're going to mask it as, everybody has equal opportunity, right? Mom and pop shops and everything. But we all know that the ones that are really going to weather the storm are the big corporations with deep pockets. And I used to work for a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical company, folks. They were involved in the opioid crisis. They got fined billions of dollars. And all they could talk about after that was cannabinoid-based medicine. That's all they talked about for 2 years straight. So in my opinion, it's to slow the industry down so the big alcohol, pharma specifically, and tobacco can come in and look at all the companies like Constellation Brands. You got Philip Morris, you got all these big pharma divisions, and they're investing in MJ companies because they're being disrupted, right? Alcohol sales are down, tobacco sales are down, pharmaceutical, opioid crisis and everything. We know that MJ is a great alternative to opioids for pain. So the writing is on the wall, folks. They're doing this on purpose. There's no way in hell the U.S. government and the Canadian government doesn't know what they're doing. And in my opinion, this is just my opinion, it's to weed out all of the small operators so that the big corporations the incumbents can get positioned. They're the ones being disrupted, but also so that they can control the industry and they can come in and swoop it up and scoop everything up swoop in and scoop everything up for pennies on the dollar. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. I can't imagine anything else that even remotely makes sense. It can't be that, all the politicians in the US are just dumb and don't have a clue what they're talking about. That just doesn't compute. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts and opinions. If you agree with me, disagree with me, always love thoughtful discourse. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section, and we'll continue the conversation there. It's Rod with POW Group. Thanks again for joining us in the pursuit of wealth, and we'll see you again on the next video.